to More Living with Jim Brogan, your source of information for living the best years of your life your way. For more than a decade, host Jim Brogan and his expert guests have come together each week to share important news and advice that can impact the lives and well-being of those who are retired and those nearing retirement. Learn about issues like health and fitness, financial planning, social security benefits, investment advice, and more. And now, here's the host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
It's been 12 days since Knox County issued the Safer at Home order. And, of course, just this week, the governor issued a stay-at-home. And, these are measures to encourage residents to limit physical contact and reduce the spread of coronavirus. Most everyone is practicing social distancing by working at home, limiting trips to the few open businesses that there are, and having only virtual gatherings. However, there are some major concerns about the possible effects of long-term distancing on our mental health. Our daily routines and normal lives have been so disrupted with the coronavirus that is the complete opposite of what our lives looked like just a month ago. Many of us can't go into the office or our place of business. We might consider getting takeout, but we certainly can't sit down and enjoy the company of our friends at a restaurant. This morning, we have April Ella. She's with us from the Ebenezer Counseling Service. She's joining us today by phone to address the social isolation that is stemming from our limited contact with one another. Good morning, April. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on. Social distancing is protecting our physical bodies by reducing our potential for transmitting germs. But what are the effects going to be on our mental state during this undetermined amount of time that we're social distancing?
Yeah. It's a hard question to answer. I mean, I think we're starting to see that it's already increasing, loneliness for a lot of people that are used to having a more regular interaction with their friends and family members. Obviously, people that are already suffering from a clinical depression or anxiety or a mental health issue are probably feeling that effect even possibly greater right now. It's a really kind of alternate reality we're living in right now, for sure.
Well, and I'll say even, April, even some of the people that I know, friends, family members, people are, that otherwise, are not prone to mental issues are really having a hard time adjusting. It was okay for a week or so, and then people are having a hard time adjusting.
Yes. I mean, we really do underestimate the function of structure in our lives. And that looks differently for different people, whatever that word structure means. But we are used to, our brains are used to that structure and that routine that has been, developed over time. So that change, especially how sudden that change was, you may have heard, the word trauma thrown out there. And I think for a lot of people, they can understand. And then others are like, that seems severe. Like, why are we mentioning trauma? But, I think this type of situation that not any of us have really been in is going to produce, some long-lasting effects on how we feel about a lot of things and how we respond to things due to the sudden nature of this change and the loss that we feel from it.
Sure. Talk about the difference, April, between social distancing and isolation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting question because, we know with the social distancing, it's, more of this, physical distancing, trying to maintain a safe distance and still stay connected to others. Isolation, I think in the medical world, they kind of view that as a term that's kind of like, isolating a patient, to keep everyone else away from them, safe. But I think, mental health-wise, isolation is a term that, we can often impose upon ourselves, I think. And that's, due to possibly, unknowns or fears or anxieties, we can do that to ourselves in a way that is not healthy, where we're actually withdrawing and kind of feeling almost frozen. Our internal safety center is not feeling, it's not feeling safe. And so I think that's where it can get into a even more of a place that's not going to be, good for us.
I saw an LA Times article last week, and the title is "Isolation is Hazardous to Your Health. The term social distancing doesn't help." It discusses whether the term physical distancing is really the much better word. Do you think the phrase social distancing itself is sending the wrong message and just compounds things?
I think I do. I mean, the more I've thought about it, obviously we can, use our higher order thinking and figure out what that means. But I do think it really, because we're being asked to switch in our minds all the things that are happening right now at such a fast rate, that's just something that automatically computes, I think, as a negative. And so, yeah, the physical distancing, I think, would definitely help us feel less, like we're not connected. I'm not saying that correctly, but, I think we would feel more connected to others if we weren't saying social distancing, because I think it almost brings that to the forefront. It kind of reminds us every time you hear that word, oh, yeah, like I'm separate from everybody else.
We can't have a social life.
Yeah.
What kinds of things, April, can people do to ward off the feelings of loneliness and isolation?
Oh, gosh. I mean, well, I would say staying obviously connected in some way with someone in your life, someone that you consider to be safe, whatever that may mean. It's the whole media.
Well, we've got
coverage.
great technology tools with Skype and all these things. I mean, we have more tools at our disposal, seems like, to connect with people, that even if we can't physically be with them, we can see each other. And then I think there's probably a responsibility for us that are not by ourselves to make sure that we're maybe reaching out with extra attention to those loved ones we have that are by themselves, right?
Yes, I agree.
And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Now, some families, April, with being at home, families are forced to interact with each other all the time, more than what we would normally see. What are some ways that people can make this constant interaction a more positive experience? One thing that jumps to my mind is establishing a lot of routine, especially if you have kids in the house. But what about a husband and wife that they're empty nesters and they're not used to being home all the time? I mean, what are some things they can be doing to kind of help with that constant interaction?
Yeah, I think a lot of this is just bringing to the surface that there's conversations that will have to be had to kind of figure out where everybody in the family unit or whoever it is that you're living with, figuring out how they're feeling about what's going on right now and what they're needing, and trying to adapt. This really is going to be kind of an evolving of sorts for us, because we don't know when it's ending right now, even going forward, how that's going to look as we interact, even with others in the community as things get, lessen, get better. But, I think those conversations are going to be really important as far as like what people's boundaries are, in the sense of, how much time they need alone to recharge and how much time they need together.
In a way, I think there can be some good things come out of this, because it kind of makes you slow down and have regular conversations and not just be communicating electronically or digitally. I don't know. I mean, it's a very difficult time. I mean, people are getting laid off. Unemployment claims are through the roof. We're at home all the time. It's a very challenging time right now. When we come back, as we visit with April Ella, she's with Ebenezer Counseling Service, and when we come back, we're going to get into, at what point is consuming the news media actually too much and harming us, and then what can we do to be helping with this pressure and stress, and if we're having feelings of depression. So don't go away as we visit with April Ella about distancing and isolation and all of the challenges mentally that we're facing right now. So stay tuned. This is More Living with Jim Brogan, only on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
You are listening to More Living with Jim Brogan. During the week, Jim is a financial advisor, an author and speaker with an MBA from the University of Tennessee, who specializes in helping people in or near retirement plan for the next phase of their lives. You can reach Brogan Financial during the week at 865-862-6800 or on the web at broganfinancial.com. And now, here's Senior Market Advisor Magazine's 2011 National Advisor of the Year and host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning as we are visiting with April Ella, and we're talking about that social distancing is causing social isolation, and it's a very challenging time right now as you're listening to More Living here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI, and it is challenging. We've got more people than ever being, since really the Depression, in terms of the numbers of people that are being laid off at one time. It's really astounding. And but in terms of the information and the news cycle, April, being armed with information to protect ourselves is important. But we're sitting at home. We have this 24-hour news cycle. Social media feeds are filled with coronavirus, and it really can be overwhelming. And we have to remember that the news media, especially all these news channels, I mean, their job, first and foremost, is to attract viewers, and you attract viewers with a little bit of sensationalism. So it just is so much to take in when we're in that news cycle all the time. Do you think we need to be limiting the amount of news we take in?
Yes, absolutely. Limiting the exposure to anything that you are, whether sensing or not, that it's providing anxiety for you, and adding to that sense of distress. Yeah, media consumption, the news, social media, even conversations with neighbors, that are happening over and over again about the same topics. Really just trying to figure out a good balance of when do I need to take in some information and what's helpful and what do I not need to take in, because probably a majority of it right now we don't need to be taking in.
I'm going to be real honest here. I mean, just this week, it's been so much. And this week, there were a couple of times I was like, I got to turn this off. I just can't watch this right now. It was just too much. I have to stay tuned into the news. It's not that, but it was too much, watching these news channels. And I think there comes a point where just watching that stuff can kind of become depressing. So the mental stressors that are involved right now, the pressure, the stress, the sheer exhaustion, not to mention the tough choice healthcare workers might be facing at some point, could push them into a depressive state. So how can we prevent, whether we're staying at home, April, or even healthcare workers that are seeing what they're going to have started to see and are going to be seeing more and more of, how can we prevent depression from setting in? And when do we know where things have gotten from, are maybe starting to progress to a point that's a little bit more serious that we might need help?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I guess that's a two-part question. I mean, I think trying to prevent from getting to that, place is really important in the sense of allowing ourselves to experience what we're feeling. I think because we've been living our lives at such a fast pace and having so much, so many things that we're involved in, and then we're just kind of halted all of a sudden has given us all this extra time to even think about or start processing things that were from the past that we haven't even had time to think about. You know, a loss that could have been 2 years ago, you know, is those feelings might be popping up. So really it's important that the connection, again, of just reaching out to either, you know, a loved one or a friend or someone that you feel safe, a therapist, someone that you can talk to and really explore any of those feelings that you're having with, and knowing that it's normal right now for everyone. It is normal. I think, too, going into that whole topic of routine, you know, we're having to kind of create a new routine for ourselves, even with the social media. You know, how much do I take in? Maybe I only need to look at this once in the morning and once in the evening before I go to bed, or, you know, however, so that I'm kind of, you know, not inundated with messages all day long of, you know, fear and
I think
unknown.
I think it just gets too much if it's all day. I think routine, what you touched on there about being in a routine, even when you're in the house, is so important to establish what that routine looks like. If you're working from home, you know, our office, April, we're completely virtual now. So I think it's, you know, trying to establish a routine at the home as if you're at the office, you know, having a separate space, focusing in on work and not being distracted. I mean, when we're at the office, we're not watching news media for 3 hours, right? And just getting into that routine, I think, is so important. My wife has done a great job with our kids at keeping them in a routine, with my daughter who's home for college and is attending online classes virtually, and my other daughter who's an 8th grader and is having some classes with her school and some assignments. I think establishing routine, you know, humans need that, I think, don't you? I think we need routine.
Yeah.
I think without routine, we feel kind of rudderless and pointless. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah. It goes back to that structure. I mean, it's varying levels for different people. And I think that's important during this time as well, is not looking around and trying to compare what your friend or neighbor or however their family is doing it, because, you know, some people are really great at doing that, at putting a routine in place and getting kind of things set up. And other people, that's not so much, you know, an easy task for them. So having to really start from the, you know, a fresh slate, you know, like you said, there are some positives to this that we're kind of relearning and connecting in a way that we haven't been doing in a while. But it's also an overwhelming and daunting feeling to many people to have to, and, you know, put this new routine into action, whatever that is, figure out what that even is going to look like, you know?
Yeah, it's something, you know, you're right. Some people are really good at that. Some people are not so good. When I'm at home, it's harder for me. I just have to make myself have a routine, but I think it's so important. Or like I say, I just feel kind of rudderless. Now, last week, April, this is kind of alarming, but in a 48-hour period here in Knox County, there were 8 suicides. 12 people in our region have died by suicide, which is more, just in the last couple of weeks, which is more than have died from coronavirus. I mean, I think there's got to be cause and effect there. Do you think that it's just all the pressure and stress of what's going on right now?
You know, it's hard to say what those specific, cases were, because there are already, you know, things going on in people's homes and what they're experiencing, you know, individually already, you know, pre-existing, stressors and mental health, you know, issues that were probably there already. But there's got to be an effect, you know, like I said, with the loneliness, and even like people that are living in not great home environments, you know, with domestic violence. I mean, there's just a lot of factors to take into consideration of not having that flexibility to leave our house like we're used to leaving our house and having space. So, you know, as we said, kind of being put in this smaller environment and having to navigate something we've not been used to navigating, as well as the social media that comes in and all of that. But, the clinical signs, to be looking for with anyone that just starting to have difficulty sleeping, changes in eating patterns, rapid mood changes, inability to do tasks or, get out of bed, all those things I kind of keep an eye out for. And when it comes to suicide, one of the most important things is knowing that it is really okay to ask someone you care about, are they feeling suicidal? Because they will answer that question. And it's an uncomfortable question, and it's something that we kind of feel like we have to steer clear of. But it really, if you notice any signs of someone feeling, even or just asking them, are you struggling right now? Are you feeling depressed? Are you, what can I do? But even that suicide question, people feel like they can't go there, but when you do, they will answer the question, and that's how we get people help, by connecting, knowing where they are.
Now, April, senior adults are an especially vulnerable population during this COVID-19 crisis. And it's not just a medical standpoint. There's been so much focus on the medical risks. But from a mental perspective, 1 in 4 of our senior adult population reports that they live in isolation, and the effects of social distancing, and it's been emphasized with our older adults. And yet they're already isolated, and so the combination could be devastating. How can we help protect this group during this time? I've seen video of the kids giving a cello concert to their neighbor on their porch. How can we be helping our neighbors? How important do you think that is?
I think it's very important. Obviously socialization is extremely important, but especially for older adults, there is a strong correlation between socialization and good health. In that,
absolutely.
In that, age bracket especially. So, I think that there's, ways that we can reach out to, to that community by, sending letters. My kids have been sending letters in the mail, helping, a loved one set up virtual video chats, if there's some way to do that, to guide them in that way. I think there's several ways that we can get creative, leaving a small something for them at their doorstep. We baked some bread last week, which I hadn't done that in years, but we've had a little bit more time for that. But, just really trying to stay socially engaged, whatever that looks like, even if it is through, a video type conferencing atmosphere.
And I want to say this too, April, that I think I want to ask you about this. It's been my last question for you right now, but I think it's so important. I think when we're isolated more and when we have challenges, because so many East Tennesseans are dealing with challenges right now, losing jobs or being scaled back. Businesses are having trouble. So, when we're isolated more, it's easy to kind of, it just seems like everything caves in on us, and it's easy to fall into a focus on ourselves. And the point is, like we're talking about reaching out to others in our communities that are, like senior adults that are isolated at home right now and need more contact. I think the point I'm trying to make is when we think about, okay, who do I know that needs help or that might need, even if it's just social interaction, with me at the end of the driveway or calling them up in a Skype call. The point is when we start thinking about giving to others, our time, our resources, our energy, I think when we think about and try to outreach to others who are having issues, I personally have seen in my own life that absolutely helps lift me up and make me feel positive and have a better outreach and have a better outlook on things. So what would you say about the importance of reaching out to others in their time of need and how that then pays off with our own moods?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. That sense of connection that we can't even fully put value on does just wonders for our soul. It really just gives us hope, and knowing that we are contributing to something greater than ourselves is
it's
helpful.
like it gives us a little bit of purpose on things.
Yes, I do. I think even just doing that, my daughter had written some letters, and I drove her around and let her put them in people's mailboxes. And even just doing that, was just the whole rest of the evening we felt uplifted, and it takes a little bit of time to do it, but I definitely think that is part of our new norm of finding a balance of how do we need to validate our own feelings, but also how do we reach out and bring others in and hold space for them and try to encourage them and let them, share what they need to share as well.
Absolutely. Well, April, please give out your information if people are interested in contacting you or finding out more about what you do at Ebenezer Counseling Service. How can they reach out or find out more information?
Yes, they can contact us either via online through EbenezerCounseling.com, or they could call the office number 670-0988. And we, would love, we have, 25 to 30 therapists there, actually. And we are doing a teletherapy now. We've been doing that for a few weeks through a HIPAA compliance site called TheraLink, and it's going really well. Our clients really seem to enjoy it. And I think just that, having that other sense of connection and support is really important during this time.
April, Ella, Ebenezer Counseling Service, thank you so much for being with us this morning and giving your time.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, when we come back, I'm going to have my dollars and cents segment. 5 things that you need to be doing now amidst the financial impact of coronavirus. And then we're going to be having on Second Harvest Food Bank and talk about some of the challenges that we're having with food supply and the need for our food banks. We're going to have Shelley Ellis Farrell joining us. So do stay tuned as you listen to More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Through his weekly radio show, television news appearances, and adult education classes taught at the University of Tennessee and Pellissippi State Community College, Jim taps into his extensive knowledge and experience to address issues important to living your best retirement. Join Jim every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI, and visit him online at BroganFinancial.com. And now, here's the host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
Here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. We're about to talk with Shelley Ellis Farrell at Second Harvest Food Bank about what they're doing and their needs. However, before we get to Shelley, it is time for dollars and cents.
Want to be sure you are getting the most out of your retirement? For all the years of your retirement? That's the primary goal of More Living with Jim Brogan and our Dollars and Cents segment, where we provide you with an important financial tip that will help positively impact the quality of your life in retirement. And now, here's Jim with this week's Dollars and Cents tip.
What should we be doing with the financial impact of coronavirus? And I've got 5 tips here. I just want to say this is what we would call a black swan event, which is basically an unanticipated event that shocks the markets in a very profound and negative way. And of course, the impact on the global economy has been very, very swift. The impact on the stock market has been very swift. And, we're getting just almost unbelievable numbers of jobless claims. So here are 5 tips of what you should be doing and how you should be reacting to the financial implication of this pandemic. The first is take care of yourself. You know, this life that we live is about people. And I think taking care of people is the most important thing we can do right now. The money's important, and how it impacts our financial lives is very, very important. But first we have to take care of ourselves, and that starts with protecting ourselves and our loved ones. And then, as we discussed at the end of that last segment, it's reaching out to others in need. Number 2 would be stay calm and don't panic. You know, it's a very emotional time. The markets have been extraordinarily emotional. In my opinion, they've been emotionally charged. So don't make panic decisions. It's natural to be worried about what's going on in terms of looking at your 401k or your IRA, or if you're already retired, where are you going to get your income from? The big thing is we don't want to panic. We need to make calculated, measured decisions. So number 3, stick to both your short-term plan and your long-term plan. Now, and evaluate the short and long-term plan. So in the short term, it's making sure that you have secured income from sources that are protected and aren't going up and down in the stock market. And then in the longer term, it's making sure that you're diversified and balanced correctly. You know, no investment plan, even for young people, should be in nothing but the stock market. There should be more diversification and balance there. You should be very, very diversified and balanced within the stock market, both in the United States and all over the world. But you also need to be very diversified and balanced in other asset classes. And one thing that's important to remember, the asset allocation in your plan, how much is invested in stocks or U.S. bonds or foreign bonds or commodities or energy or real estate, all those asset classes, that determines 80 to 90% of your success. The security selection, what funds or securities do you use, only is 10 to 20%. That doesn't mean it's not important. But addressing the asset allocation is so critically important in understanding your time horizon that you're investing for your long-term investments. And that's number 4, is remaining optimistic in the longer term. We've weathered big storms before, and we'll weather big storms. Hopefully we get our arms around the medical problem as quickly as possible. The economic and financial problem will be shorter than if this thing drags out a long, long time. And the 5th thing that I want you to know is that I'm here for you. You know, I don't ever wish for negative events. But it's time like these that give you the opportunity to reassess where you are and get professional guidance and leadership. And if you'd like us to help you with that, that is what we do. If it's just getting my information, you know, I post podcasts all the time. I have a weekly e-newsletter you can sign up for at broganfinancial.com. The classes at Pellissippi State and the University of Tennessee are virtual now. We have one starting a week from Tuesday, two nights, the 7th and 14th of April, and then that's at Pellissippi State. And then late April and early May, I've got my class at the University of Tennessee, all virtual. I just want to try to equip you to make informed and prudent decisions that can impact the quality of your life. So I'm here for you with my education in the community, what I do here on the radio show, and all the things I offer online and with our email support to keep you informed and balanced and a healthy perspective with money-life balance, because that's what it's all about.
That's our Dollars and Cents segment for this week. You can find this week's Dollars and Cents segment and others by visiting BroganFinancial.com.
Please check me out on BroganFinancial.com. You can check on classes for those upcoming virtual classes as well, but at Pellissippi and the University of Tennessee. Now, Second Harvest Food Bank is the prominent food bank that services East Tennessee and the Knoxville area. They serve 18 counties in East Tennessee, distributing more than 20 million pounds of food and grocery products each year. Now, the coronavirus pandemic is impacting a lot of people who need food assistance, and it's impacting the food bank. So when we come back, we have Shelley Ellis Farrell from Second Harvest Food Bank. She used to actually work at WOKI. So we're going to have her on the line to talk with you and to visit about what's going on at Second Harvest Food Bank and what can we be doing to help them and to help others in our community. So don't go away as you listen to More Living here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Thank you for listening to More Living with Jim Brogan. If you miss any of today's show or want to listen to it again, visit BroganFinancial.com, where you can access the podcast and other educational materials to help you in your journey through retirement. And now, here's Senior Market Advisor Magazine's 2011 National Advisor of the Year and host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
Thanks for tuning in this morning. We now have on Shelley Ellis Farrell, and we're talking. She's with Second Harvest Food Bank, and Shelley, thank you so much for calling in and being with us this morning.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, more than 94,000 Tennesseans filed for unemployment this past week. I can imagine the requests for food are going to increase exponentially during this crisis. What has the past few weeks been like for Second Harvest?
Well, it's definitely been quite a roller coaster, and it's ever changing even since yesterday. We are one of the biggest things that's happened is we're no longer accepting volunteers. After the governor made his statement, we just decided to go ahead and cut that piece off. We had been taking measures to make sure everybody was socially distancing, and we were only having groups of 10 where we normally have 30. So we're no longer accepting volunteers, and we have completely focused our mission on our emergency food box program. And this normally is a box of food that somebody would come to one of the agencies that we service or to the food bank and get maybe 2 days worth of food until they could get on a regular schedule with one of our agencies. But now these food boxes contain 2 weeks worth of food for either a family of 4 or for one person. And because of the kind of run on the grocery stores and things like that, we've stocked them with protein and things like that to make sure that everybody in the house is kind of getting the nutrients that they want. We don't want anybody to go hungry, and this food box allows us to have our agencies just give the food box into a vehicle to somebody, and then there's little or no contact. We're not doing any client shopping or client choice as we used to do when somebody would come to us for a need. So the emergency food box program is our primary focus right now.
Oh, I think that's great. How can people find out more about that?
Well, you can always go to our website. Yes, our website is Second Harvest ETN, and that's for East Tennessee. So Second Harvest ETN, all spelled out, secondharvestetn.org. And on our website, you can, of course, what we need right now is monetary donations because we've had to, as you know, donations are down because people are keeping what they normally would donate, and so we're having to purchase all the food that goes in these emergency food boxes. So our number one need right now is definitely monetary donations. $35 will purchase one of these emergency food boxes for a single person, and $140 would purchase an emergency food box for a family of 4, and that's 2 weeks worth of shelf-stable food. And also, anybody listening, if you need help or if you know somebody that needs help, please go to our website or call us, 865-521-0000, and we can help you find a pantry close to you that is possibly distributing these emergency food boxes or somebody in your community that's working with us. We want to make sure that everybody is eating during this kind of crazy time, and we don't want anybody to go without. So please, if you know anybody that needs help, give us a call so that we can get that box to them. And if you have the ability to help us, absolutely, a monetary donation is what we need right now.
Yeah, let's talk about that need a little bit, Shelley. I mean, Second Harvest relies on physical food donations, not just from grocery stores, but local restaurants. So, what has been the impact of all these restaurant closures or reduced service? How's that impacted your donations in addition to having more demand?
Well, it's actually it's at a critical stage now. When the restaurants first cut back, we actually got a nice influx of produce and things like that they gave to us so it wouldn't go bad. But now that everybody's kind of staying home and it's a takeout situation only, they're ordering much less food, which means there's not as much to give to us. And so we're having to purchase all of this food. Normally, we would give out maybe 30 food boxes, emergency food boxes, in the entire months of January, February, and March. And just to put this in perspective, on March the 16th, we gave out 300 food boxes in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a huge... You're kind of getting squeezed, it sounds like, because you've got this huge increase in demand, and then your supply is typically way down from what you normally... Plus, some of the grocery stores don't even have some of the stuff.
That's exactly what's happening to us. You know, our food rescue program, we have 7 full-time drivers that are out 6 days a week picking up from grocery stores, and that's leftover that they would have, and now it's just not there. And so our supply of what we would call donated food is drastically cut. We've ordered 3 tractor-trailer loads full of food to pack emergency food boxes. And to put into perspective the need that we're going to have, what's forecast for us to get through to make sure that in 18 counties that we're able to service everybody, we need to raise an additional $4 million to pay for this food.
Wow. What has our government been doing to help step up? I mean, what type of cooperative work is there between you and Knox County and Knoxville?
They have been extremely helpful with us. We've been on phone calls with them. There are grant situations that are happening now. Lots of our corporate sponsors that normally would maybe wait until December to make a donation to us are releasing those funds early. Feeding America, which we're an affiliate of, received a large donation, and so we'll be getting some of those funds. So thankfully, everybody realizes that this is definitely, I heard you say earlier, a black swan event. And so those funds are coming to us earlier now to meet this demand. But at the same time, you know, the supply is so low and the need is so great that there's definitely kind of a gully there for us to be able to, to make sure that we don't...
You're being pulled on both ends. So,
yeah,
you know, I was talking just about the mental health side of this in the first part of the show, Shelley, and I know a lot of our listeners, I know that a lot of you are concerned and having your own financial issues. What I'm kind of hearing from you, Shelley, is you cannot take more volunteers right now because of the distancing requirements from the governor. So the best way to help is financially, and I just want to encourage our listeners that anything at all that you can do, financially, $10, anything at all, volume helps. So if a lot of people can contribute a little bit, it can help satisfy a very important need. So to give Shelley, again, your website, Second Harvest ETN for East Tennessee, secondharvestetn.org, and give out that phone number again.
It's 865-521-0000.
Okay, Shelley, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for everything you all are doing at Second Harvest Food Bank to help the community.
Jim, thank you so much for having me on, and I try to tell everybody this when I get the chance is we're a skeleton crew right now, but we are still here, and if you or anybody you know needs help, please give us a call. We're here to help.
Thanks for tuning in this week. Thank you to Shelley. You've been listening to More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
The views expressed by Jim Brogan and his guests are not that of Cumulus Media. Any discussion of financial, legal, and tax planning strategies is not intended to be individualized advice and is general in nature. Always consult with your advisor for advice specific to your needs. This program's content does not represent a recommendation of any particular security, strategy, or investment by Jim Brogan or Brogan Financial Incorporated.